It's a lot of stuff going on. My best advice is to pay attention to the things that have the potential to affect you. And that ain't advice. That's just what I would do. That said, let's talk about the CFPB and how they've pretty much been shut down and, hit by, they say a White House attack, but it really is the Department of Government Efficiency with Elon Musk, and that CFPB is one of the areas that got hit. I have a feeling they may come back because I do feel like they're relevant when they do the digging to see how they protect consumers. But I do see that the Department of Government Efficiency is doing certain things that I feel could be beneficial. But let's talk specifically about the CFPB and how it can possibly affect you. So White House attack on the CFPB intensifies as acting director orders staff to cease all supervision and examination activity, threatens funding. Consumer Reports warns that gutting the CFPB will harm working families, leaving them vulnerable to fraud and abusive financial practices, which I tend to agree. The White House's latest efforts to undermine the CFPB puts consumers at risk of falling victims of fraud and scams and other abusive financial industry practices. Consumer Reports warned today over the weekend CFPB acting director Russell Vaught ordered the bureau staff to cease all supervision and examination activity and all stakeholder engagement. And this morning, instructed staff that the agency's headquarters are closed this week and they should stop all work. Now, there's a lot of things in works, a lot of things at play. Medical debt being wiped off or removed off of people's credit report because it's not a true testament of someone's credibility. That was in motion. The Experian and Equifax were being held accountable heavily in the fact that they wasn't properly doing disputes for different people when they dispute them, and then when things did get deleted, they will pop back up unlawfully. So there's a lot of things in motion, and that's just to name a few. So this definitely can be detrimental for them to stop all work. Then they went on to say that Vault also alerted the Federal Reserve that the CFPB would not be taking its next installment of funding. When Congress created the CFPB, it funded the agency through the Federal Reserve rather than through the annual appropriation process. Last year, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of the CFPB's funding, rejecting a challenge mounted by payday lenders. So they're not going to accept their next round of funding. I didn't know they were started through the Federal Reserve, rather through, other processes. However, I do feel like they're doing some good. Now, maybe it could tighten up in certain areas if money is leaking in certain areas or if consumers are not getting their money in certain ways. But I do know the fact that consumers had a go-to that they can use and not have the money to sue Experian, Equifax, and things of that nature, but they can have an entity that will be willing to do it on their behalf or communicate on their behalf. That could be pretty powerful for the consumer. And that's why I feel the CFPB has great benefit. They went on to say big banks and other industry opponents of the CFPB have long sought to muzzle the consumer watchdog because it's been so effective at rooting out discrimination and abusive practices that cheat families out of their hard-earned money, said Delisha Hand, which is the person who put together this article. And, I reference her down below because she has some great work at the Consumer Report website, where this our article came from. So the administration's latest efforts to halt activity at the CFPB makes clear that they are intent on effectively shutting it down for the next 4 years. Hand continued. Consumers face an increasingly complex financial marketplace today dominated by AI, big tech, and new digital products, making CFPB's work more critical now than ever. Which I tend to agree, because in the world of AI, it's going to be so much shit going on that a lot of people ain't going to be able to know what's going on, not going to have protection and things of that nature. So the CFPB definitely could be key. They would probably need more staffing, to be honest. But to wipe them out altogether, I'm interested to see what would be the rightful replacement. And maybe it's something, that they're putting in place that could be better or as beneficial to consumer, but only time will tell. But keep your eyes open because this can tend to affect you, especially if you've been on your credit restoration journey. You've used the CFPB as I have for different people, different clients, etc. Just see how this can potentially affect you and what you need to do to pivot and adjust and move accordingly, because there's always going to be a solution. Yeah, they may knock down something, but something else opens up. Another opportunity will open up. That's just the nature of life. So if the CFPB is effectively defunded and prevented from standing up for consumers, the consequences could be severe. Consumers will end up paying the price if the CFPB is sidelined, and will be more likely to fall victim to predatory practices, hidden fees, and data privacy violations. Without an active cop on the beat looking out for consumers in the financial marketplace, the administration is essentially saying consumers are on their own. Now, I'm all about accountability. I'm all about, do for self to the best of your degree, but it requires a lot of education. Some people don't really go through that process. Some people rather hand that off, and a lot of people will be vulnerable due to the fact that they're not educating themselves. They don't, understand certain things that are going on, and it would leave a lot of people naked, vulnerable, in other words, just because they are having to fend for self. So critical CFPB efforts to protect consumers are endangered by these latest developments to gut the CFPB, including but not limited to limits on credit card late fees and overdraft fees, a ban on medical debt listed on credit reports, which I mentioned, rules to prevent data brokers from selling consumers sensitive information, very important, regulations on payday cash apps and buy now, pay later loans, which can be predatory, in some cases as well, and penalties on companies for taking advantage of consumers, which I talked about, penalties being applied to Experian and Equifax, all of those things being halted or paused, or them not having to be held accountable. It's free range for them. They're celebrating. They want this to take place. So you got to look down and see who benefits. Oh, are they shutting it down because they know some of their companies may benefit? That's a question you got to ask yourself. And then whatever you find as the answer will determine how you may need to move and pivot, and what areas you may need to educate yourself in. You let me know what you think down below. This is the queen who put this article together, Delisha Hand, Director of Financial Fairness Advocacy. But you let me know what you think down below. What do you feel about the CFPB and the moves that are being made by the Department of Government Efficiency? I agree with certain things, because I do know it's a lot of, dead weight, or fat that can be trimmed, and money that has been issued out in different areas. But is it for the consumer? You got to look down and see, is it for the everyday American? If so, then okay, great. Is it for the betterment of the country as a whole, which also trickles down and betters the people? Okay, great. If not, that's a whole nother conversation. So you let me know what you think down below. That's all I got for this video. More to come in detailed form of ways that you can adjust. And if you're serious about taking your credit and cash flow to the next level, I have some links down below, some freebies, etc., that can help you take your credit to the next level, as we've been helping people do for years. Mr. Smith signing out. Salute.